Is the growing amount of retro gaming expos saturating the community's experience?
Ooh, I'm surprised we're talking about this one, boys. Is there too many basically retro or gaming expos diving in? Chris, you want to give initial thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I did just get back from Retro World, which is the second show. Obviously, we run SoCal Gaming Expo together. I run Retro World, which is in the East Coast, different market. I did notice after that show, like it was a great show. A lot of people had a great time. The attendance was actually up 20%. We expanded. Vendors, I heard good things from some vendors. I heard some vendors did about the same they've done in previous years because we get a lot of return vendors. And I did hear from some vendors were kind of like, we didn't do that good this year. And I was like, oh man, as the show owner, I always want to have, you do vendor. You always want to hear the vendors do really well. Of course, you always want to hear attendees had a really good time, but the other one, was vendors. And I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, why is that? And I kind of was just, after thinking about it over the weekend and hearing it quite a few times from the vendors, I was like, maybe people are just con burnt. And while the attendance was up, there's another show a couple weeks before, Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, that's only like maybe 3 hours away. There was a big comic convention in Connecticut the weekend before. There was some other shows where at the end of the summer where I think a bunch of shows have already happened. And I just wonder if people were kind of just like, I'm done spending kind of thing. So I did kind of just experience that. Some other things I would say though is, I have noticed, like when we started Retro World was about 10 years ago. SoCal Gaming Expo was started up about 10 years ago. I think Game On Expo was started up 10 years ago. Retro Game Con was started 10 years ago. Even Long Island was 10 years ago. There was a huge emergence of shows that came up, many of them still around. In the last couple years, maybe in the last 5 years, there's been a few new ones. And then I want to say in the last couple years, all of a sudden it's like, everybody wants to start up a new expo. I'm hearing like there's new expo. I just wonder how many the community can support, and maybe there's way more room for all of these. But as we know, like when we were planning SoCal, like you run out of dates where you're kind of like competing with other shows.
That's the part that is sketchy to me because we're friends with a lot of these people. So you get into that territory of like, this is kind of our only date left. Like you kind of call your buddies. Actually, that's the first thing I did. I remember telling you. It was like one of the
made a huge list.
There's a very literally hey, we got it. I'm part owner of this. Great. Made a list of every con and everyone that I knew the owners, I physically called them. I remember I was in Arizona and then we had a meeting that night. And all four of us. And I called, Gamester 81 and all the different expos. And I'm like, are you good? Are you good with this date? You good with this date? You good? Basically get it figured. But at some point, like you said, when we get into oversaturation, at some point, people are going to start screwing other people.
I won't name any, but I know that there's already some cons that are like conflicting, and there's only 52 weekends in the year, right? And count out probably 10 of them for holidays and Christmases and stuff like that. And I mean, if we were putting on SoCal and you might be in Florida, you're still kind of competing with each other, right? Because we were getting people that come from all over the country to the show. Yeah. So it's getting, I would say, more crowded is what I'm seeing. And even when we made that list, it was like, how many weekends were available? Like 2?
Yeah, we were like, well, we can do this or this.
Yeah, because the list was probably like 25 cons.
And then the convention center that you work with, they're like, here's 2 dates.
1 or 2 weekends.
Yeah,
if you're lucky.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and even I think SoCal actually matched with AGN's event when you guys were running.
Oh, yeah, there was some like
the Xbox.
IGN or something?
IGN.
Sorry.
I wouldn't even consider them. It's like a different... It is a video game expo. We did talk about it. We were like, this is going on, and it was going on in LA, but it wasn't a true like retro.
And I will say I'd never heard a soul talk about it in the community.
Yeah.
Not like talking down on it, like not good or bad. I just didn't hear anybody even speak about it. But I feel like that's why I'm glad for the team we have, because with humility and confidence at the same time, if that makes sense, I'll say like we went 190%. Like full force, as good as we can make it, as many cool things, right? Because if you're competing, I mean, it's just like anything. It's a car dealership. It's a pizza shop down the street. You got to be the one that's killing it, right? This puts you to see, who's the best, who can stand, who can stand above the rest. If we're going to compete against 3 cons in the future, they're going the same weekend. Well, guess what, boys? We're doing a bigger, better con. And that's how my brain thinks. So, in my head, I'm like, well, be prepared, boys, because if we are competing, I'm like, well, then we're just going to have to be better than everyone else by light years.
100%. And there's like the shows that have been around a long time have stuck around because they've continued to do that.
100%.
For sure. And it is just going to be way more competitive. Like if you're a new con starting up right now, you better be prepared almost to like come out the gate, I feel like, with like some big, either you got big marketing or you got a big plan for how you're going to draw
POG championship.
POG championship might be the thing to do.
POG championship. That's what Retro Rick's doing. Ricky, what do you think?
So I think it's awesome that everyone can have it. So because I don't think it's too bad because there's a lot of people that can't travel. Like you can only go to those cons that are there. Like at this point, I think there's just enough cons. If you keep adding to it, it'll eventually get saturated. But I think right now, like I love it because when we go to cons, we meet different people at every con. So you don't see the same people at every couple of people, but not everyone goes to the same con except for some vendors from California. You'll see those guys out there everywhere. You're like, yo,
shout out to some of our vendors in California, man. They go everywhere.
They
around
travel.
But we have some of those at Retro World too. That's what they do as a career now.
Yeah,
they travel all over the country.
Con money.
Yeah. It's their life, which is pretty awesome.
As the you want to say don't shy away from starting a con because a lot of areas don't have it. Right?
Exactly.
So if they start up in an area, then they're pretty much branching their own little thing. Midwest, wasn't that what is it called? Midwest Classic?
Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah, they just started a couple years ago, right?
No, they've been around for a while. They're one of the longest running ones, probably 15. 20,
but I feel like that's the only
years.
one that I know of in the Midwest.
Well, definitely. I mean, you see it in the comments, people saying all the time, what the heck? Where do I find these things? Right? And I would argue even the same for swap meets. That's probably the number one comment that I avoid answering. What swap meet is that? I ain't answering. But that's another thing. We don't get this in my area. So for cons, some areas it can be I'm using a reference, but what if it's Antarctica or some random place, the Bermuda Triangle Expo? Who gets cons in certain areas? Some people need them, like Ricky said.
Yeah.
And that's not, I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from starting up a convention if you are. It's just from doing it for so long. And again, me experiencing it kind of I wonder just if people are a little bit spread thin.
So what about if it's the same area, but different sides of the year,
different dates,
different way months apart? Would that be okay? You think? Or do you think that is still competing?
I mean, in reality, we don't control the Orange County area gaming expo. We can't dissuade somebody. We'd probably love another con, right? We might enjoy it. But again, it's just one of those things where it's business, right? It's not technically, you can't tell me not to open a store.
But I mean, okay, so we're going again in June next year, right?
Yep.
Is that okay?
So if you're a con, do not go near June. Find you. No, I'm just kidding.
So what if there was another Southern California expo in I don't know, January?
I feel like
would that at all compete with us?
Probably.
It would. Yeah, because in Connecticut there's another show that takes place on the other side of the calendar. But it still is competition. Like Aaron said, but no way you can't. It's business. Business is business. You can't ever be don't do that. If somebody wants to open up a con, they can absolutely do it. But yeah, it is
because the average person's oh no, we don't want to go to that second one because we already went to the first one.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It puts in that headspace of, I just went to a con.
I went to a con, even if it was 6 months ago. Well, I went to one video retro gaming convention this year. Maybe I won't go to another. So
Gotcha.
It does dilute it, I think is the word.
Ricky?
I feel like SoCal LA area is a different beast though, because we have so many conventions here. We'll have
people.
And people. So we got tons of people, and the cons still they all do all right. We got we have 2 Comic Cons. We got the LA one, and then we have the San Diego one.
That's right.
And there's a bunch of we have Archon, and then you got what's the anime ones? You got all those they're all. There's always someone's always going to them. They're always packed.
Well, like you said, I didn't think about it also is region, right? Us, Kansas or Arkansas probably can't handle 15 cons because it's
so many people.
It's all the same,
it's the same
cousin lovers going to the same cons. They'll just Kurtz just put his head down. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm thinking about going to one in Alabama. But California, we're so overcrowded, right? I can make fun of it. I can make fun of ourselves. We're so overcrowded here in LA and California. We are just packed to the brim with people getting shoved in on every ADU in every corner. So
true.
we have a lot more people here to technically feed with retro gaming conventions or even newer. Is newer conventions even a thing? I know obviously there was E3, but like, do people hold like new game conventions where they're like, we have all the PS4 stuff?
I think PAX is like the only one that is doing it. I think somebody mentioned about Nintendo being at PAX now.
Oh yeah,
Did you
that
hear
was.
about that?
I was the one that saw the
Did
post.
you say that? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think PAX has kind of transitioned into.
But they
like,
also do retro, right?
very not much. I mean, they are Penny Arcade Expo. They were started as like a retro gaming expo. But I've been. Have any of you guys been to PAX before?
No.
I have. PAX has like Twitch. When I was there a couple of years ago, Twitch, Microsoft, Sony. I don't know if Nintendo was at the one I went to. There's a huge one, PAX East in Boston.
That's cool for sure. I just don't know if
Yeah.
it's my thing.
But there was retro video game vendors there.
Okay.
Huge tabletop and a huge indie dev section.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool.
I like that.
It's definitely video game themed. It's a combo of like newer release stuff and a trickling of like retro video game stuff. It's pretty cool. It's
That's
actually a
sweet.
really good show. Yeah.
What was the difference between Evo and PAX West?
Evo is just straight
Fighting.
games to the max. Yeah, I did. I could talk about that. I was there in Las Vegas. They invited us to go out because they came to SoCal. And so I had never been to Evo. And Blake and I went. It was maybe like a month ago now. And huge. It's at the Las Vegas Convention Center. I think like 25, maybe 30,000 people they get over the weekend.
Big.
And huge sponsors, Capcom.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
How much was the ticket?
I don't know because I didn't
Free.
pay for one.
Must be nice.
I think they're over $100 easy for a weekend. Maybe one. I don't know. I don't want to just throw something out.
Let's just say for
But they-
schnitzels and giggles, $120 times 30,000 people.
It's millions.
3.6 million.
Yeah,
So we're now a
millions.
fighting game expo. Welcome to SoCal Fighting Brawler Fest.
But they've been around, I
Yeah.
think, since 1996.
Yeah, they've done it for a long time. They've
like
crushed
a
it.
long time. But it was awesome. That's not your regular like convention though. That's just a huge esports.
And we
tournament.
should probably shout out too, like something we really like here in California, especially, is a lot of our local stores do like they're not really conventions, but like meetups, swap
Yeah.
meets. You know, Game
Those are great.
Tower and Tony does them, and Romeo. You know, they'll do these local events where it's like, hey, we got, Punky just started doing it from Hidden Gems. You know, we got multiple, 30 vendors out here, and it feels kind of like a mini convention.
Yeah.
I truly love those. I think those are actually some of my favorite things to go to. If you're not like a big crowd person or not like the crazy stuff and you just want like good retro items to buy, those are awesome.
Yeah, because they're usually
events.
free and then free parking
Yeah.
usually.
And
Wherever
even if
it's
not
at.
$5 or something, it's like sweet. You get to look at all the rare. And I actually built a lot of my NES set at Elliot's events and Romeo's event and even Tony's event. So
And
I run
Gabo's
them.
event.
I run them at my East Coast stores. I run those.
why don't you do it here?
There was a lot of stores already doing it here. And you know what? I had a second one
I bet we
planned.
could kill it.
I know we probably could. I had
Pixel Game Squad presents.
Sure, that'd be awesome. That would be fun. I had this, we had done one, and then we had the second one planned. I think literally like the day before COVID, like shut everything down, and I had to cancel that one. And then we never did them again after COVID.
Wow.
Yeah,
Stupid COVID.
I know.
All right. I thought this was interesting. I know Ben brought this up. It was if you guys were to do a new free play console or console free play area, what would be the 4 games that you would choose for 4 systems? Just so one game for each system. And it
One
was-
game per system?
Yeah.
What
so
system?
If you were to add it, it has to be different between you guys. But what would you add for a person to enjoy and be able to check out and play? And that would be your free play game to play.
Okay.
What were the
Throw a
systems?
console.
NES?
It was NES, SNES.
Do one at a time.
NES,
Okay.
one. Then SNES would have been the other one.
Okay.
I'm just kind of going the easier ones right now. And then GameCube and PS2.
GameCube.
Or you could say N64. There's 5. But really the cartridge systems.
Okay. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2
Okay.
for NES.
For NES.
Super Nintendo, Donkey Kong Country 2. GameCube, Double Dash. PS2, use it as like a holder to set on top of other important consoles that matter.
Dude, that fat PS2 would smash it, dude. No way.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good paperweight, the PS2. It's my favorite one.
Since you chose the easy way with GameCube, the other guys have to figure out. I mean, I
know,
think guys,
right? That was gonna be.
What did you choose for GameCube?
Double Dash.
Double Dash.
Double Dash.
Kirby's Air Ride.
I mean, Melee is the second option, but Kirby's Air Ride's a great choice. All right, NES. Do NES.
Okay, NES for me.
Yes.
I'm gonna say Super Sprint
Wow.
because that game is like the easiest pick up and play, and I'm really good at it. And
And you're good at it.
and it's just fun. Yeah.
Rikito? NES. For the
NES
console.
RC Pro M with the 4-player controller.
Whoa.
That's a good answer.
Is that the Japanese version?
Ooh, that's a
No,
good
RC
one.
Pro M.
Is that 2?
It's 4 players. It's great.
You could play 4 players
With-
on
with
regular
the- with the-
RC Pro Am.
Yeah, with the 4 score.
I don't think you can.
Are you sure? Or am I thinking
I
of
don't
arcade?
remember.
I've never tried. I've only ever tried
But
two
it would
players.
still be RC Pro Am even if it was only 2 players.
Okay.
Christo?
I had a
Looking at your
list.
cheat sheets, bro.
No, I had a list. I was like, give me an NES game. No, I have NES. Double Dragon 2. And you actually did a video recently, and you were kind of saying how Double Dragon 2 was not that it was
That's
not
why.
that good. But that actually to me is one of my favorite games ever, and I feel like you can pick it up. And,
I do love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but you were kind of like, I think you said you liked 3 better, but Double Dragon 2 I really love. I feel like you can pick that one up and play that one.
So you like Double Dragon?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Oh, come on, Chris. You walked into the Double Dragon, these nuts
Ben,
across your face. Joe.
you gotta finish
Do
it.
it, guys.
Do it,
Ben is just so wise. He's like, so you like Double Dragon? I
I was waiting for you to chime in.
was gonna let you try to drop it.
Ah.
All right, Ben. What about you? Super Nintendo.
I mean, Street Fighter, bros. Come on. But it's the championship edition. 'cause
Okay.
That's the OG.
Yeah,
Take that out and replace it with this Ultimate Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
that's one way to get people not to show up. I said Donkey Kong Country too. I know that's what Ricky probably would have picked though.
I would have, but for I think for like playing out, I always want to think of like if you're at the expo, you want to have 2-player games. So I'd probably go Killer Instinct.
That is such a good answer. You took my answer. I took yours. pretty much swapped answers. What was the next one?
It was
N64.
it was GameCube.
Did Chris do a Super
Or
Nintendo?
N64 is fine.
Ultimate Mortal
Okay,
Kombat.
okay.
What was GameCube, Chris?
I was going to say Pikmin. I love Pikmin.
Why would you do that to our audience?
Pikmin, how do you know? I'm surprised you don't like Pikmin.
Yeah,
It is
but
so
Can you have
good.
more than one player?
I
Dude,
think on Pikmin 2 you can play 2 people. One person can play like Oliver, and then
But
one.
that's like a slow developing game. I'm talking about you
You gotta
look
put
at it.
time into that
no,
one,
you
don't
can
you?
just play a level. Like, dude, you guys have never played Pikmin.
Of course, I played it.
I played it for like 10
It's
minutes.
so good.
I played it for a little bit.
I played it as long as anyone should.
Oh my god,
Kind of boring,
Pikmin
man.
is so good.
It's not a therapeutic game. Like,
Olimar is also the worst character in Smash Bros.
I've never played Smash. That's not even.
So
a
wait,
game,
that was your
so-
pick for GameCube? What was your pick for GameCube?
I'm gonna say Kirby's Air Ride because
Okay.
That's a great
you could
one.
land them
that's a
together.
Great one.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Good.
Alien Hominid.
Ooh, that's a hard
good
game
one.
though. That's a good one.
Great
That's
game.
a great
That
game.
would keep people there because that's hard. And then what'd you say? PS2.
Yeah, or N64.
Definitely.
Wait,
Let's go
is-
N64.
Yeah, let's go on 64.
Nobody cares about PlayStation. I get so much heat from this one guy in the comment who keeps getting mad at me because I ranked the Dreamcast higher. And I was like, yeah, man, what's it like to know I'm right?
What's it like to have a voice here?
No, I get what you're saying though, but I'm just way rather.
It's all
Okay.
preference anyway. Right?
N64.
007.
Nice.
Even with the janky controls, I feel like there's just too much nostalgia to pass it up.
Okay. Ricky?
I wanted to say Mario Kart, but I think I'm going to go with Star Fox.
I know you would.
Ooh.
Pokemon Stadium, dude. That'd be a fun.
It would be great. That would be great too. That's a
I'd
good
probably
call,
go
Curtis.
Blast Corps. It's one of my favorite N64 games.
That's great.
Okay.
I wouldn't
Uh-oh.
play any of these, but
He's a hater in 64.
I did. You know what I played, which was a Tetrasphere, which is a horrible game. Have you ever played Tetrasphere?
Oh,
I put that out there.
difficult,
That's what you
actually.
have to put out there.
that was a terrible game.
That was so bad.
So why do you
I
want to
would
give
put
that to the
out
people?
there? And I'd be like, here, play this. Try to play this game. I
That-
put it out there to let
challenge?
people try to figure that game out. That is the most challenging game. Have you guys ever played it? Anybody?
Yeah, it's decent at best.
I
It took me forever just to understand what you were
Yeah,
doing.
it's a sphere, like a
and you have
3D
to like
sphere.
break the things
Yeah.
apart. Remember we played it at
So
Retro World?
annoying.
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is the worst game ever.
But it was a cool experience to be able to play those 10 different games on different systems.
Yeah, it was like part of like a game challenge.
What if you could only have one console at the expo?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. I'd go
That
Super
is a tough
Nintendo.
Super
one.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super.
I think you guys should have Guitar Hero, like just somewhere in there. That'd be fun.
That'd
That'd be a bad
That would be
idea.
cool.
Tournaments.
Somebody just comes up, or even like
Guitar Hero live show.
We need somebody to like set that up. If anybody wants to run Guitar Hero at SoCal,
You know-
it's best if people bring it and set that up.
That'd be
It's hard
sick.
for us to do in like console free play.
Yeah.
You know
It
what I
takes
want to
time
put just
set
on
up.
free play for us? I gotta get with Ben though, because it's gonna be hard as heck. But it would bring back like some good memories for me. Halo, the original, with 2 screens, 4 controllers, a 4 versus 4.
Yeah.
If you can hook them up
OG
together.
Xbox,
OG
and land them
Xbox.
together.
Yeah.
We could make that happen.
And connected.
Oh, it'd be
so
good.
Run a
I
tournament
think
out of it.
Southeast Game Exchange has some pretty hefty Halo tournaments, if I remember correctly. I think they're pretty big with their Halo tournament.
I didn't even want a tournament. I just want free play because I want like the one thing I love tournaments, but what I see at the tournaments is you see all these kids always wanting to play, like little kids, and they never get to play. And I'm like, oh, that stinks. I'm like, I want to make some for for everyone to try, not just the tournament guys.
Think of the children.
I remember at the old SoCal, like back in 2019, it was. I think they had a Halo tournament with 4-player, and I played in it with my boy who was like 7 at the time. It was
My
awesome.
boy.
My boy. My boy.
I got a text from Jay the other day, and I like legit thought I did something wrong, like with SoCal. It's just like this text, and he's like, "We need to talk." That's all it says, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, Jay from the Game Chasers." I'm like, it's also the person we bought SoCal from, and I was like, Caleb's video went out, our documentary went out about it, and I'm like, I wonder if I said something like pissed him off or something. And he's like, we need to talk now, and I was like, oh shoot. And then out of nowhere, he just sends me a text. You guys, so I was like, me and Billy need to wrestle you and Ricky at Retropalooza. I was like, what? He's dead serious. Like, he wants it to be a big thing. He wants us to take like training and stuff. I'm like,
I know.
I don't have time, bro. I love you, but I do not have time to I don't have time to wipe my butt half the time, bro. I don't have time to take training on wrestling.
So if it's a true like wrestling,
would
right?
be
It would
wrestling.
be pre-planned who is going to win.
Yes.
Would you guys let them win?
You think I'm flying to Retropalooza?
Yeah.
I'll get a
You
chair if I have
win?
to.
So if he said you guys are going to win, would you do it?
Possibly.
Possible.
And if he said we're going to lose, me and Ricky going off script. Pull out the brass knuckles and accidentally pop one. Oh! No, I'm just kidding. I would probably go off script, though. That's just my thing. So
you're considering it?
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.